It's very common knowledge that if you want to be a better version of yourself, learning financial literacy, having a business, or having cash flow in general is one of the most important things that you can do, because money is a critical tool that can help you just get ahead of the game. It can help you achieve what you want. It can help you get better health. It can help you sort out a whole bunch of different things. And this podcast, I welcome onto the show, Kyle Trainer. And he has an amazing story. Started off in the fitness industry and built a really successful business and a boatload of, a school that teaches people financial literacy and business skills and all these different things, first starting through fitness. And his journey and the things that he shares, like if you want to be a better leader, if you want to be more motivated, if you want to overcome certain things internally in order to go out there and actually crush your dreams and achieve them and find some of the practical tools for what you can actually do. We go through a lot of these in this podcast, and it's really quite fantastic because I didn't exactly know all of Kyle's journey, but he went through and shared just some awesome things. So this podcast I thought was really quite fantastic. So if you get any value out of this podcast, please leave a like, share, or subscribe. If you really like it, please share in your story. That would mean a lot. Also, the Apple reviews mean heaps to us. That really builds the podcast up, which is fantastic. And also, if you guys aren't aware, I am a coach, and if you're interested in coaching, please just shoot me a message and I can help you figure all these things out, especially if you feel like you're stuck or you're lost, or you have a business or something is working out, but you haven't exactly built the foundations of yourself yet. So I can come in and obviously help you out there. I have bone broth discount. There's a link below towards that. And it's the best bone broth that you can get. It's the best of the bone broth, and theirs is the best because they cook it over a slower method and remove any of the bad stuff, and all the cows are grass fed. It's all the best stuff. So good. I also have a recipe ebook available and a training program. So the training program is literally, if you're at that stage where you really want to upgrade yourself or if you just keep getting programs from coaches, or if you had a program before and it hasn't been specific to you, and you're trying to stick to something, but you actually hate the program and you don't like the exercises in there, and the food doesn't work for you. It's oh God, none of this works. Why is this program not working? And your coach or whatever person didn't get back to you. I sort of made this program to solve all of those problems. It's a very educational series and educational course, and you can click the link below to find out more if you want to learn some more about that. So yeah, without any further ado, guys, this podcast is brought to you by Eternum Labs, and if you go to eternumlabs.com.au, you can see all the new products that we have come out with, a whole bunch of antioxidants and sleep products and anti-aging products, which are fantastic. And you can use the code Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, to get 10% off. And that is also linked below as well. So without any further ado, guys, this podcast was epic, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy it, as much as I did. G'day, Kyle, mate. Thanks so much for coming on to the show.
How are you, brother? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm not too bad, man. What have you been learning recently? What's been coming up for you?
Oh God, it's a bit of everything at the moment. I'm still really diving into business myself and kind of trying to learn as much as I can. That's something that I've always done. I've got a massive passion for business. I think, it really is someone's vehicle in a sense of self-actualization, but also economic security. So a lot of what I'm studying at the moment is around how I can help my customer, right? How I can help the people that I'm connecting with. And what we're finding is that those people are, people that are self-employed, right? So people that, are either looking to become self-employed or they have their own business. And I'm basically studying everything I can around how that person can improve their life, right? So a lot of investing at the moment, a lot of business, a lot of, how does one build their character? They're kind of, that's basically, that's what I'm diving into at the moment. And I think it's such an interesting space on how the world is currently moving and what's currently happening in the world. I think we're going through something very, very crazy. But I think a lot of the stuff that you don't normally pay attention to, or the stuff that's hard to see is starting to, potentially revolutionize as well. So I think we're in a dramatically changing world at the moment. So I'm just trying to navigate my way through it, and then hopefully share some learnings along the way.
Yeah, for sure. What have you learned like recently that you've been like, whoa, that's super valuable? Either going to teach some of that or apply it myself.
I think I think one of the big things that I've known, but I'm really diving more into, and I think something that can catch a lot of people off guard when they don't know, is understanding investing, right? So outside of your business, because I think business is a great way to create value and then start to extract value for your own personal life, right? So when you start a business, there's two things that you really want to do. You want to make an impact, and you want to create economic security for yourself. And they're basically your two driving factors. And that's your two passions in business, but whether you want to start a family, whether you want to master your craft, whether you want to travel, whether you want to, provide for your family and your loved ones, whatever it is that you want to do, you have to, honestly, money's at the core of that, right? Like, and that's one of the, I think for me as well, like, from my journey, is I don't come from a wealthy background. It's not something that I was born into. So, growing up, it was, my relationship with money wasn't great, right? It was, for a long time I had a business and I didn't understand what my relationship with money was. And one thing that, over time helped me with that is learning how to invest my money, and more importantly, understanding things such as economics, so that all the hard work that I'm doing in my business isn't diluting, once that money comes out of your business as well. So, and I think that's important if you want to be able to self-actualize and you truly want to be able to reach your potential, especially in business. You have to really learn how to create economic security outside of your business. So that's something that I've been diving into massively over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 months, and looking at what the potential opportunities are, and trying to navigate that space, because it is ever changing. It is dramatically changing as well because of the situation with COVID that we're in. And then just, how does that affect how one runs their business? I've been lucky enough to deal with hundreds and hundreds of business owners, and I often look at and kind of look at how money is managed, and just how potentially one's decisions can be compromised by the situation that they exist in as it relates to their money. So that's probably been one of my key focuses over the last couple of months, and something I've been diving into.
Yeah. What sort of opportunities are you like trying to take advantage of at the moment?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing that I look at is I go, I think one thing that we, and this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but I think one thing that we have to become aware of is that unless we do invest the money sitting in your bank account is currently being diluted, and that's because more money is entering the ecosystem, right? More money, more money is being pushed into the economy. And I'm not really here to discuss whether that's right or wrong. What I'm more saying is that it's happening. And that means that, that's why we see house prices going up. That's why we see the cost of living going up. And in reality, what it means from a business standpoint is that we have to be growing our business at a certain rate just to be at break even, right? Because if we're sitting in cash, let's say you're earning 100K a year and you're saving 50 of that into your business, and that becomes, working capital. Well, what you're seeing is that 50K is going to, in 6 months' time, we'll be able to purchase less, right? So what do we purchase in our business? Okay, we look at marketing expenses. We look at we look at marketing expenses, we look at real estate, we look at all these different things that potentially we're spending our money on, right? Even services. And those are going to, that money that you're looking to purchase, right? That the money sitting in your bank account that you're looking to use is actually is going to be able to purchase you less. And the same thing happens outside of your business, right? So, $100 today will not be able to purchase the same or have the same value as $100 in a year's time, which means that, wealth, generating wealth is really about storage of value, right? So that's why people buy property, subconsciously. I think in Australia, especially, we have this kind of, it's like the Australian dream, right? Buy a house and so on. And I think I'm not necessarily against it, but I think if we can understand why we do those things, right? And why property is a good investment and why maybe potentially putting money into equities and stocks is a good investment. And businesses, right? Like starting a business is one of the best investments, but why? Right? Because it allows you to generate capital and continuously generate capital and, get a really good ROI, which is something we're all looking to do. So yeah, I think it's about understanding why we're doing things, and more importantly, why our money is being devalued, and then being able to, store value so that we're not losing purchasing power, because that's really the battle that everybody faces at the moment.
What are some of the things that you dig into when you're looking into why?
I think, economics 101, I think, paying attention to, or at least improving your financial literacy, right? So understanding what it means when, what interest rates are, and understanding, quantitative easing and stuff like that, right? So, when the government is, and also being able to read between the lines, I think. So I think, first of all, I'm looking at terminology and trying to understand that when I'm watching someone on the big screen talking about interest rates, talking about quantitative easing, and then looking at what the consequences are and what's really happening behind the scenes there. That's something that I look at. And then what I start to do is I start to try to understand the different spaces in which I can actually invest my money, right? So we look at the property market and we go, what's happening there? And then we look at, stocks and we go, well, what's happening here? And then, crypto it's just this ever evolving space right now, that I think we're seeing that just eat the whole world at the moment. Like it's something that's just growing at the speed of light. And a lot of people at the start were very skeptical, but I think now it's starting to be adopted, right? It's starting to really show itself.
Especially with NFTs.
Yeah, everything. Just the whole space is crazy. So, what's actually going on, right? On a macro level, on a when we kind of look at it from a bird's eye view, what are we actually seeing that is happening, and trying to pay attention to that, because that's really how I make my decisions. Economics is no more than behavioral or behavioral psychology, right? So what we when we don't understand or pay attention to these things, we actually we're not paying attention to things that could potentially be leading us to make certain decisions, right? So if I'm not investing my money and I'm sitting in cash and I'm potentially on a wage, right? Well, I'm earning my wage. That money is continuously allowing me to buy less, and that's putting me under pressure as an individual. And then how does that affect my decisions? Right? How does that affect what I do? How does that affect my psychology and my relationships? Like imagine how many households are being put under pressure right now. Imagine how many relationships are being put under pressure. Imagine, like jobless rates and we're seeing those holding pretty steady, but it's like, just imagine what's happening at the moment. And that's kind of, I think, a big part of, running a business as well. I really do. I think that your personal finances, getting those in order, only allows you to really self-actualize with what you do in business as well. So that's probably been a big focus of mine, is like, especially because I've seen it as a massive problem with people that I've worked with in the past and that we've had come through our courses and so on, is that there's another element to that other than just running a business, that I think people could really benefit from paying attention in that area. So I tend to look at what are the key areas that I want to focus on, what are the key areas that that people can potentially invest in, and then try to have a look at what the landscape is and what's going on around the world that potentially could be affecting my own psychology and my own decisions.
Yeah, that's such a crazy way of looking at things, and so like a big picture level. I kind of like personally of people who start a business, it's like it's going out on your own hero's journey, and especially like going through all those different hurdles and obstacles, because obviously you're going to self-actualize throughout that process. So for you, what do you think were some of like the biggest successes that you've had like within your business in terms of like some pivotal moments?
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, from a business perspective, my journey is I started off as a personal trainer, right? So far out, it's probably what 10 years ago now, 9 years ago, and got into business not really knowing that I had a business. Back then I was 19 and 18 and yeah, 19. Sorry, I was just turning 19, and I just finished studying a year at university, and I studied marketing, and quickly realized that I just didn't enjoy university. I didn't like being told what I had to learn. So as always, you get a little bit confused and you kind of like, well, what do I do? And I knew that I loved training. I was in the gym every day and I loved that side of things. So I was like, okay, well, why don't I just become a personal trainer? And, parents got a little bit worried. I think it's changed a lot now, but I think, back then this was kind of early days of kind of social media and stuff. I don't think I used social media to grow my business in the first couple of years. So it was kind of one of those things that there wasn't as much opportunity as there is right now. So got into business there, and I think I didn't earn over $1,000 a week for probably the first 2 years, and didn't really understand that I was running a business. Didn't pay taxes for the first 2 years or anything like that. Just had no idea. I just thought, I must preface as well, like I was living on my own. Like I didn't have a lot of guidance in terms of that kind of stuff at that point in my life. Right. So for me, it was like I would say that pivotal moments was deciding to really get my shit together and actually, start to pay attention to my craft around within that space, and becoming a good coach and running a legit business. And that's probably the where I really did start to invest in myself, right? Like you kind of taking courses, you're investing in mentors, you're surrounding yourself with people that are lifting you up, instead of dampening your vision and so on. So, that was probably a big win for me. And then beyond that, I started to build and look at, I really love business, man. Like I got to say, like that's always been my passion. I think.
What about it makes you just like, oh God, I love it so much?
Man, I think business is such a journey, right? Like, and I think it's a journey of internal recognition. If that's the way I look at it, is like that really was the journey for me, right? And it's such a journey, and I think that's what gets lost a lot of the time. That's what makes people, well, I think that's what drives a lot of failure in a sense. It's like, especially with social media, is that there's not, you have to really accept the fact that it is a journey and that there are going to be bumps, and that you do have to go through these minor failures in order to learn. And I think that's the best part. The thing I love about business is that it's different for everybody, and there's different journeys for everybody. There's different ways for everybody. I think one of the things that has really driven me to want to do what I want to do in terms of my business was the fact that, I thought business was taught the wrong way. I think that especially in the fitness industry, a lot of people get pigeonholed into doing things the one way, right? Like you have to be evidence-based, you have to do all these things, right? And although I agree with all of those things, what it actually causes and the consequence of that is that people think that they can't be different, right? And that they think that there's one standard. We were talking about some of the greats, right? Some of the greats that we know. And I'm 100% that I think it's the non-negotiable that you have to be science-based, that you have to be evidence-based. Like that's a given. Like if you're not doing that, what are you really doing, right? But that's not like, I think that what people get confused with is that that pigeonholes them to being the same as everybody else and offering the same thing. Like everybody offers nutrition, everybody offers this. And that's kind of their selling point, right? When in reality, I think when you start to understand business on a deeper level, you understand that you can be different and you can position yourself as different. You can change your messaging. So yeah, I think that's a real kind of big element to why I love business, because I think business teaches you that you can be different. And the more you learn about business, the more you realize that, and being different is fun, right? Being unique is fun. Not being pigeonholed and thinking you have to be perfect is what makes the business actually enjoyable. So yeah, I think, that's probably why I love it so much, because it was only once I started to really learn about business did I learn that I could be different and that I could be me and I could be unique. And I just had to learn how to actually start to build a business outside of that. And that's really how you can self-actualize and really start to make progress.
Yeah, especially when that when you are being unique, as you said, and you're still providing value and other people are finding it value, like in other areas. Where you're just it really validates what you're doing. They're you're on the right path, which is great. And you did mention just before that you started investing in yourself. And I'd like to get clear on, what were some of the things that you invested in yourself, which really helped change the needle for you, move the needle forward. And then how do you invest in yourself now? So there's two questions there.
Yeah. I mean, so back in the day, it was a lot of just, books, courses, mentors.
Any in particular that you got? Well,
so one thing that really helped me back in the day was, do you know Phil Lerney?
Nah, don't. Damn.
So Phil Lerney is a guy from the UK, and he was podcasting before podcasting was a thing. This was 10 years ago. His podcast.
Whoa.
Yeah, crazy, right? But his podcast actually was and it was all science-based, right? So it was all about nutrition and training and stuff like that. But his podcast, I just remember listening to it and just it was teaching me absolutely everything I needed to know about nutrition. And that was so big for me back, when that was, I think my third year. And yeah, I think that was massive for me. And then it was just courses and learning and coaches, having a great coach is such a underestimated, in terms of your development as a coach. Having a great coach and being able to see how they do things, how they make decisions, not only just the science stuff, but how they manage you, how they manage your relationship. I think all of those things were massive for me. And then, as I started to kind of grow, a lot of it was your courses and your seminars and these kind of things. And not only just going to them, I think a lot of people go to these things, right? They go to seminars, they go to courses, but they go there for the fact that they said they could go, and I would go and I would sit in the front row and I would ask as many questions as I could. And I would make sure that I left absolutely understanding everything that they said. And if I didn't, I would follow up. And that was for me is that was huge, and I'm such a curious person. I think that's one of the characteristics that you have to have in order to be successful in anything that you do. You have to be curious because you have to want to understand things so deeply, right? That's what drives your success, right? Knowing that no matter how much you know, it's never enough. And that's, I think, something that has driven me. I couldn't even tell you how much I've spent. I don't even want to know, brother. It would be, I still got a problem now, in my Amazon orders and these kind of things, it's and courses, I would say that I've probably got 6 courses on the go at the moment. You know what I mean? And these are long-term ones, like subscriptions and stuff like that. But, that's what I think really factors in. I think you've got to be curious and I, when you're saying some certain ones, I think back in the day, I actually ran a seminar series, right? That was my first business outside of just being a coach and having a coaching business, which I was able to grow to having, a team. But I ran a seminar series, an 8-week seminar series where I had, so do you know Luke Tulloch?
Yeah, yeah, no, Luke
So I
Tulloch is,
had
yeah,
Luke
he's
Tulloch
great.
present, and this was when Luke, I think, had 2,000 followers. I had Scott Goebel. So you
I know who
you
that
might
is.
know Scotty. So this
Yeah.
was a while ago, right? Um, who else? I just had I had a really kind of OG crew present, and more than anything, I sat with everybody in that seminar and was probably asking the most questions at my own event,
You're just
right?
running it for
And
yourself to learn. You're like, this is great.
100%, right?
Yeah.
I go, okay, and this is exactly my mindset. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, who is everyone that I really want to learn from? I'm just going to get everybody and put them in a seminar series. And I ran it in Melbourne.
So genius, dude. That's so
Yeah,
genius.
crazy, right?
I
I
want
ran
to
it in,
learn and take the most in. Let's just use some of these business skills, create a huge seminar so I can learn as best as possible, sell a bunch of tickets so I can make a profit out of it as well. Like I'm getting paid to learn right now.
yeah, I think, I think at the end of it, right? I think I don't even know if I profited that much,
Yeah,
right?
but still
Like,
the
because
value.
it's like you have to, I had to fly people in. I booked a really nice venue. I had to do all the tables, and it was 8 weeks. So it was 8 seminars. So, I had to book an event space. I think I ran it every Friday for 8 weeks. Um, and I ended up getting like, I think 30 people to purchase for the whole 8 weeks. And that was wild, right? Like that was my first time, like, it was nuts.
That's cool, bro. That's cool.
I think, yeah, we didn't end up profiting that much, but that was also something that helped me build a lot of authority, right? Because it was like after that, people started to, I think I had around 60% of the people who actually came asking me for business advice post seminar series. And that's kind of what initiated it. I didn't really create a business out of that to start off, but I had a lot of people reaching out and so on, and then things really started to just excel from there. So, that's just me. Like I think I put up about 25 grand before I actually even made a cent. So I was very risk tolerant, I would say, but I also was willing to kind of to be curious and to kind of more than anything lose that money just in order to learn, and it's funny, like beyond that point, I ended up running, I think me and Jordan ran a seminar maybe 2 years later, and we ended up getting 110 people to that. And that was such an amazing event, 2-day event. We ran another one in Sydney, which was, similar numbers, right? Like it was just, like, I think that for me is like, it's those moments, right? It's those moments that I remember, those moments where you take a bit of a risk and it comes off. Because when you put yourself in those situations, you're forced to learn, you're forced to figure it out. And I think that's where you make the most progress. Like you can sit there and read a book, and you can sit there and take a course, and you can do all those things. But unless you're really willing to go all in and action all of those things, you are never, ever going to actually make extreme progress. I often say that the reason I'm able to progress is because I probably make more mistakes than everyone. I'm willing to make 52 mistakes a year instead of 2. I'm willing to put things on the line for those as well. They're probably the moments I look back at and really say, they helped me the most. They've allowed me to grow the most.
Is that because you trust yourself really well? Or
You know what, man? I went through some really shit times before those great times that we talk about. There's a really critical time in my life that I thought it's not going to get any worse than that time. I remember I had started to get some success at the first gym that I was at. I think I was doing 50 sessions a week or something like that. And I really wanted to move because my mum moved. So she wasn't in the area anymore. And I wasn't living with her, but, growing up, single mum and living with her, that was really important to me. So I wanted to live near her. So I wanted to move, to a different place, which was about 45 minutes away from the current gym that I was working at. So I went to the gym and said, hey, I'd love to build my business up here too. Can you help me out? And it was the same gym franchise, Good Life at the time. So I went and signed, and they said, yeah, all good. Like you can do this passport thing. So, you only pay an extra 50% a week in rent. So it was like, 1.5 times what my rent was. I think I was paying 350 or 300 at the first gym. And then, it was only a 150 on top of that to build my business up at this gym as well. So I went and signed a lease, me being young and dumb, went back to the gym, and then they took that contract away and said, no, you got to pay double rent, which was pretty rough at the time. And then, yeah, so I think I was paying 650 a week in rent, 400 in rent at my home, bills, groceries. And then the same week that I did all that, I made the decision. I'm like, yeah, cool, double rent, whatever, come at me, you know? And then I lost my license after signing both of the contracts. My fault. That was me. That was you live and you learn. So I was living 45 minutes away from the gym where my 90% of my business was at, or 100%. And I had to build my business up at the current gym as well, because I was paying rent there and I wanted to live there, and I was living close to that. So, I think for 6 months I was, I was waking up at 3:30, getting the first train to start at 5. I would work from 5 till 12 back to back, catch the train back, get a tram to the gym, build my business up at that gym. And I would leave the gym at around 8:30, 9 o'clock, walk home, get home at about 9:45, eat my food. I was training then. I was, pretty much prepping without prepping, like doing all that kind of stuff. And I would wake up and do it again. I did that for 6 months, and I drove myself into
sympathetic overdrive.
Man, anxiety, like real bad anxiety, like really bad. Panic attacks, like just heaps of shit going on, and I learned a lot about myself in that time. There was things in my past that I hadn't dealt with that I needed to deal with. I needed to learn that the biggest thing I learned is I never wanted to go back to that point ever again. And a lot of that was coming from the fact that I was financially illiterate. I was a gunslinger. I was just doing things, without understanding why I was doing them, and more importantly, doing things for what it looked like rather than how much it was actually going to fulfill me. So that was a massive learning, right? Like that was huge for me. And those were some of the toughest times of my life. Why wouldn't I go for it? Right? Like that's my thing. Why wouldn't I go for it? Why wouldn't I really, 25 grand and not making a cent is much better than the situation that I was in 3 years earlier. So for me, it was like, I've already been to hell, I've already been there. Like it's not going to get any worse than that, because your mental health is absolutely paramount. There's nothing that will be worse than times like that. And that's a big part of what got me into spirituality and kind of started my journey there. But that's probably when you say, do you trust yourself? I don't know if it's I trust myself. I think it's more I'm going to get through it, whatever it is, right? And I think, it's not going to get much worse than what it was. So I want to be great. I'm here for progress. I'm here for, the mountain that you have to climb. I'm here for the valley that you have to get through, right? Like there's that's a part. And I realize that is the journey, right? That is the process,
It's what sharpen your sword so you can slay the dragon. That's for sure.
Exactly, man. And that's just something I hold with me to this day, I'm willing to go and to do it blindly, because I know that, I can get through it. And I think that's what a lot of success at anything is.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. I love that you touched on spirituality and stuff as well and got into that, because I always find that some of the things with spirituality, getting a really clear head and learning about yourself can be super important. So what's been your experience with that?
Oh man, self-awareness is absolutely everything, isn't it? Like, it literally, so, like, for me, that was a big passion of mine for I reckon 2 years. It was all I studied. It was all I learned. Now, I did a 7-day silent retreat.
Nice.
I'm big in meditation. I feel like meditation changed my life. I think because meditation was the practice post that really traumatic time for me. That was a lot of what helped me get through that period and learn a lot about myself so that I could make progress and I could get through it. And I think, like meditation is just a magical process of understanding yourself, understanding your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts. And I think when you can get to a point where you can become self-aware, you can start to really write your own story and go in the direction that you want to go in instead of the direction that life takes you through. Right. So I think that's probably that's my journey of spirituality is finding out a lot about myself and learning a lot about myself to the point where you understand why you make certain decisions and why you may have spoke to someone in that manner, why you may have reacted in that way, why you might be thinking those thoughts. And you can start to change those or more importantly, just become aware of them and improve. So yeah, spirituality, whether it's through meditation, whether it's just through self-regulation, whether it's just through
going into the forest, taking a shitload of mushrooms, like
relationships, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a big part of life that I think a lot of people are missing out on, and you can learn a lot about yourself through that process, and that's what life's about. In my opinion, why do I study? Why do I do all these things? Because I'm curious. I want to learn more about me. I want to learn more about the people around me. I want to learn more about the journeys that I'm going on, whether that be business, whether that be spirituality. Like, I just don't know what life would be if I didn't have those things, and I'm very grateful to have gone. I don't regret anything, like there is absolutely no regrets on this journey, because I do love to learn, and I think it is only through self-awareness that I've been able to love that journey and actually not have any regrets as well. So it's definitely something that spirituality is something I'm just extremely grateful for, because it's allowed me to just continue on and to continue to progress no matter what happens.
Yeah, I really agree in that. I also try to, like, when I talk about meditation to people and the power of it, and find that when I talk to people who are a little bit resistant against meditation or trying it or giving it a go, it's like understanding that like meditation is sort of like a muscle, and it's a long-term thing of like commitment where you start to sort of get results, and it takes like a while to get there. What do you think were a couple of moments for you? Because I definitely know like a few like business owners, myself personally, who have sort of, when I've talked to them, they'll be like, well, I haven't actually given enough credit to meditation, because when I was meditating, I had this like 1 or 2 moments where I had this realization, and I was like, whoa, I just need to start doing this, and this is what I'm going to give a try. Then they've started doing those things. It's put them on the path, and they're like, everything's serving me at the moment. Like everything is serving me because I made these decisions out of meditating, which sometimes takes weeks, months, like years to even get of meditating to get to those points. Have you had any of those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, something that you said is that, like, I often think of it like it's not the meditation that matters. Like, it's not what happens in the 10 minutes. It's usually what happens outside of it. And I think when you take your focus outside of the 10 minutes or the 20 minutes or the 30 minutes, and you actually start to recognize what's happening outside of that through the practice, through that long-term practice that, you talked about, you can start to really start to pay attention as to how it might be changing your life. And that's those little bits of progress that you need to continue as well. So, it's definitely something that it's really hard to try to tell someone, how beneficial it is, right? You always sound like a Looney Tune, like you're like, oh my God, like this has changed my life. And it's like, people are like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, you're a hippie and stuff like that. That's literally everyone I speak to
You're
is
trying
like
to be a
had
hippie.
that.
I'm the best hippie
Yeah,
ever.
but I would say the most profound experience was on my silent retreat. Like that was easy the most life-changing thing I've ever done. Like, oh man, like it's crazy what happens when you just have like, there was no phone for 7 days, no communication, no talking, no screens, and I was in a jungle. And you're meditating for 3 to 4 hours a day. The other 2 hours is yoga. You're eating, all the food is harvested there, from the ground. And it's just like, I think like day 4, I was like, was spent crying the whole day because like you just have like, I think, and it's really, really hard to explain, but just how conscious you are and how aware you can become and how much external stimulus takes that away from us. To the point where you're just so clear on certain things, you're so clear on like the bigger things in life, and I think that's been the most profound experience for me that has allowed me to just continuously draw lessons from that point in my life, or that period of 7 days. Like there's still lessons that are just in my head and from and like clarity that I found in those moments that still serves me to today. And I think that's a lot of what meditation really is. It's not going to be perfect, but there is going to be profound moments that you can draw from for the rest of your life. And you will become more conscious. You will become more clear. You will become more emotionally intelligent and self-aware from the practice, not those moments, but from the continuous practice. So yeah, man, like I would say that that's probably been the most profound thing for me is just, a profound experience as it relates to spirituality, to the point where, it really did change my life forever.
God, what a story. Absolutely love that, man. It's so good. And it's like so important. And I think that, you know, what's really cool is that we have like access to all of these tools. Like I think they're all tools and resources. And like, I think it's having a willingness, like you mentioned beforehand, curiosity to actually go out and give them a crack to see if they actually work for you. Cause I know like a bunch of people think, like, oh, I wouldn't have time to do that. How could I take like, 4, 5, 6, 7 days to actually go do something? I've got all these things on that's happening in the background. So yeah, I think that's
Crazy,
really
man.
good.
So I had a partner at the time and like, I didn't talk to her for 7 days. I had a business at the time. So I was completely zoned off and it was just such a surreal experience, man. Like I reckon by day 2, I stopped thinking about like most of that stuff, like even my partner, like, and that sounds really bad, but it actually made me come back and appreciate her more. So, man, it was just like, I think when you can kind of take yourself out of the chaos for a bit and you can get super clear, even if it's 10 minutes a morning, like it's one of those things that it's like, if you say you don't have time for it, that's probably why you need it, because it's like, because it's how that time compounds into the rest of your life. Like emotional intelligence is not something that you can quantify. Self-awareness is not something you can quantify. But it is something that will get you a huge ROI in all areas of life. So I think it's huge.
So do you think that like helped you to become like a better leader, motivated to build your businesses? Because
Man, it's not there is no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like no doubt. I would not be the person I am today without it. I
Yeah.
would not be where I am today. And I'm not, I'm talking about being a partner. I'm talking about relationships. That's where, it's not even like, I honestly can't explain, man. Like I would
Yeah.
not be the person I am
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
without that stuff. It's
Yeah.
just, it's, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for it. And I will just continue to pay it forward in
Yeah.
any way that I can, because
Yeah.
that's the only thing you can do when, gratitude is what allows you to start giving, and so on. So
Yeah.
it's,
And you help a lot of people, man. Like I've been looking at, I was looking at heaps of your content this morning about the people you're coaching, the people you're helping with like the business stuff and everything that you're doing. I'd love to just discuss and talk about like some of the little like tools and things that you have learned which it could even be mindset. It could be like a legitimate like tool of Wayne going like through something with business to actually help people scale, build business, overcome limiting beliefs and things, and start generating like some serious cash flow for themselves, and being able to free themselves up and self-actualize and become better versions of themselves. Because I believe that like money in business, as you were mentioning beforehand, you said is a critical tool to help you get there. So what are some of the things that like you've learned that you think is really important for people to know business wise, for them to either focus on, overcome limiting belief, whatever it is, to help them, get some like put out more value or bring more value to people?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big ones that I learned and I still teach now, it's the first thing I teach in our course, is, and this is, it's around finance, and separating your entities is kind of what we call it, right? So I think especially when you're self-employed or you're a freelancer or you're a sole trader, what they call it here in Australia, treating your business's money as yours and not being able to separate your business's money from your own is something that we teach, and it's life-changing, right? It's life-changing because often we don't realize that, right? So as a sole trader, what do? You earn money, right, through your business, and you can, you don't necessarily have to pay yourself a wage, right? You just go, okay, well, there's $1,000 that come in this week. I pay my gym rent. I got to pay my home rent, right? And then I've got $200 left to live with. But in reality, the way it should be is that we should have the business's money, right, which you pay for business expenses for, and then you pay yourself a wage, which is what you pay your personal expenses for, so that the business has profit or generates profits, which helps your business build a bank account balance, which helps you take business opportunities, and then you can have a personal wage still on top of that business profit that goes to you personally, and then you can start to achieve goals outside of your business with that personal wage that you pay yourself. And that's something that a lot of sole traders don't do. But once they do start to do that, because it's about the identification that they are separate entities, right? Your business's money is not yours. Because when those lines aren't clear, and more importantly, when those lines are blurred, right, what we start to see is that it changes the way we make decisions, right? And a lot of people with their money, they either hoard money, right? So they kind of just, they're scared to spend it, right? Which means that what do most sole traders get stuck with? Well, they get stuck at a point where they don't have a team around them, right? They get stuck at that point where they're scaling, where we maybe get to the 100K mark, or we get to a point where we're so full that we don't get to enjoy our life outside of our business, right? We get stuck at that point because we can't go backwards, because we've built a lifestyle around the current situation. And they're either really scared to spend that money, or they just spend it all, right? And there's no awareness around how they're spending it. So I think once you start to look at business and you go, okay, well, this is the business's money. So if I have 20 grand sitting there in an account, I now can start to go, okay, well, what can I spend that on? Maybe I can hire a staff member, or if I've got, extreme profitability over here, maybe I can pay for someone to maybe run my podcast. Maybe I can pay for someone to run my social media. Maybe I can hire another coach. Maybe I can do those things. But when all this is bundled up, right, it's really hard to make those clear decisions. So it's really hard to invest over here to start to really build economic security in my personal life. And it's really hard to spend money over here to really start to maybe allow me to have more freedom and build the business, right? So, and that's where a lot of people get stuck. So I think that's honestly it's such a simple thing, separating the accounts, right? And understanding that your businesses, the revenue gets paid into here. We want to have profit here. We want to pay ourselves away here. We want to pay our taxes, right? And then we start to use this personal wage to save money, to invest money, to pay for our rent at home or our mortgage, and to pay for our food and so on.
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like that's a key. That's an absolute necessity, because what happens is that if you haven't done that, you're going to struggle to make those decisions, which means your decisions are compromised, right? And you're never going to do what's best for the business, and you're never going to do what's best for your personal life.
Bro, yeah, that is just absolute fire. Fire everywhere. Oh man, thanks for sharing that. And I think this, what a lesson. And I loved how like you get super pumped out about that because you know and you've seen it like work heaps of times as well.
We teach that in week 1 of our course, and people are like, "Holy shit,
we're done." There's more than this. It's like, oh my god,
it's funny. Like that very thing alone, like people will message me in like 2 years later, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, man! Like I just want to say a massive thank you. Like I'm now debt free. We just bought a house and stuff like that, and like." This is why I'm so big on financial literacy, because it can be life-changing, right? Like a lot of people chase business growth because they don't know how to manage their finances properly. And that's why we put such a heavy emphasis on it in our courses, in our education, because it will really allow you to compound absolutely everything you do in your life. And it takes away the necessity for genius to be your success driver. Yeah, like that's a big one. A lot of people think that you have to be a genius to be successful, and that's not the truth. Yeah, like it's just so far from the truth, because every success to everybody is different. So instead of chasing the dragon, which is the social media following, which is, that's another thing that people think they have to have. Instead of chasing the dragon, that is the big $1 million business, instead of doing all that stuff, when really what you might want is just a normal life, right? And I'm not saying that there is a right or wrong in that situation. I'm saying identify what you want and what success is to you. And if you learn how to manage your finances, you can make that happen. Instead of thinking that you have to be a genius, instead of thinking you have to have a massive following, instead of thinking that you have to have $1 million business to be financially free, you could just learn how to manage your finances in both your business and your personal life. And a lot of the hard work can be done through decision making, instead of thinking that you need to be absolutely grinding all the time. And I'm an advocate for hard work. I really am. I'm a massive advocate for it. I believe in it, but I also believe in making the right decisions. And I believe great decisions or great decision making can help you make leaps and bounds.
Dude, well, we're literally just getting fired up right now, and it's come to the end of the time of the podcast. We're going to have to book in an episode 2 because this is just ridiculous. I love this stuff. It's like absolute fire. It's blowing my mind, and everyone listening right now. If you can't see like my face on the screen right now, I was watching, like, I was just like, my eyes were open, and I was like, yes. So Carl, dude, you're an absolute stud. Where can people find you if they want to learn some more of this stuff?
Yeah. So I would say, the usual, which is like Instagram. So my personal handle is Kyle R Trainer. And then I've got a couple of businesses. So we've got a podcast, which is Pivotal Conversations podcast. And we also have Elite Vitality Business School. So you can find both of those on Instagram. We're also on YouTube. And
I'll chuck the links in the show notes.
A few different things. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the best place to find me.
Sweet. Well, dude, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, your lessons, and some of the tools and resources. I hope like people who are listening, if you have listened and you've learned something from this, apply some of this stuff for sure and thinking about it a little bit deeply, because this is insane. I can't wait to listen to it again.
Thanks for having me, brother. Really appreciate it.
Man, thank you. Bro,